Welcome to Forte Catholic Radio. This is your host, Taylor Schroll. We are recording live on a Tuesday night here in the Red Sea Radio studios in Bryan College Station, Texas, on campus at St. Mary's Catholic Center. And all the little kiddos are back. All these college students are back and making a ruckus outside. So if you hear people screaming, yes, the college students have returned to Texas A&M's Catholic Center here on campus. We have a great show planned for you today. Last week, if you missed it, we were talking about Hurricane Harvey and how to deal with these sufferings and that sort of thing. In our first segment, we're going to keep that going a little bit, talking about the smaller sufferings that we all face, because I know a lot of people have been maybe for good reasons, maybe not for, but the little sufferings that we all have in our lives, kind of feeling guilty for talking about our small sufferings when there's people truly suffering with Harvey. And I was like, okay, like that, I get that, right? I've been kind of wrestling with that myself. We're going to talk about that a little bit. In the second segment, I cannot tell you how hilarious the podcast that these two ladies have put together is. It's a dating podcast by two women in their young 30s who, when they started the podcast, they were both single. And they started a podcast called Fishers of Men. If that's not the funniest podcast name you've ever heard, I go search for one and prove me wrong. I think it's the funniest one that I personally have ever heard. And in this third segment, we have a very, very special surprise for you. Stick around here in about 30 minutes. You're not going to want to miss that segment. I promise it's going to be something very special. The introduction of a new segment. So, a couple of stories here to kick off our show today. Just kind of some irony and some little small sufferings in my life. So, like I said, there's people suffering, and like I have friends and family who are losing their homes in Houston. It's this terrible tragedy. We've been talking about it. We've been praying about it over the last couple of weeks. And then I've been kind of thinking in my personal life, okay, what about these little things we call first world problems, right? These things that like bother me, but pale in comparison to these other things. And I'm going to tell you kind of how I've been reacting to some of these things. The first one is I lost an iPhone charger. Okay, not a big deal, right? But there's some true irony in this story. iPhone chargers, if you've had an iPhone before, you know that they're easy to lose, they're easy to tear, they kind of you go through them fairly quickly. As we're recording this, I'm looking at one across the room that's green. You know that wasn't the original. Someone either lost or tore the previous one. Like, Apple makes the greatest phones. I'm a huge Apple fan. Greatest phones, greatest computers in the world. Their cords are terrible. They're just not good. So I played at a mass a couple of weeks ago at St. Anthony's Catholic Church, and I use my iPad when I play music. I have the chords and stuff on my iPad. And, in classic Taylor move, I brought my iPad with about 3% battery at the beginning of the mass. I'm just a genius, really, really smart person. You'll get to know it if you just tune into the show. I'm right up there with the Trent Horns and Jimmy Akins and Tim Staples of the church. I'm just absolutely brilliant. So I bring this iPad with 3% into the church. And so, like, during, I play the opening song, and then I unplug it, plug it in, plug it back in for the psalm. This whole ordeal, right, where I'm just unplugging, plugging in, unplugging, plugging in. And at the end of Mass, I swear to you, I put it in my backpack. So for days, I'm looking for this charger, right? Can't find it. I'm just retracing my steps because it's like by Wednesday or Thursday that I notice it's gone because I have another one. I'm like, I feel like I just have like one cord short, right? So I start tracing back. Okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Sunday. What'd I do? I'm like, oh, Saturday. Like maybe for some reason, I swear I picked it up, but I probably left it there at the church. So I go on Friday, right as I'm leaving town, to go to the Fullness of Truth conference 2 weekends ago, where we were speaking, leading worship, and for the youth track. A lot of fun. I go there because I'm like, I need this charger for this weekend. So I go to the knock on the door at the front desk. I'm like, hey, can I use a key? I need to get in to the church. And like the lady looks at me funny because I don't go to this parish, and I'm wearing athletic shorts and a t-shirt and had this big beard. And, she's just like, you don't look like a person I should trust. And but then, I think maybe because of my size, she might have been scared to tell me no. So she gave me the keys. And I walk across the street. I go in the church. Sure enough, I'm in the church for 18 seconds, and I see the charger up. I go upstairs. I see the charger. First thing I see. So I walk outside. I go back, lock the door up. I, do like a victory dance. Like my wife and my baby are in the car, and I do like this victory dance. Like, yay! I found my charger. Right. I go back to the office. I knock on the door. The sweet little lady comes out, and she says, "Oh, St. Anthony must have been praying for you." And I swear to you, I busted out laughing. Because, I'm in Catholic ministry. I have a Catholic radio show. I never once thought about how ironic it is that I'm the only idiot that could lose something at St. Anthony's. Because if you don't know, St. Anthony is the patron saint. Like, when you lose things, he helps you to find them, right? The old joke is, Anthony shortens to Tony. Tony, look around. Something's lost and must be found. And, we ask the saints to intercede for us for certain things. There's, St. Christopher, who the legend says that he would carry Jesus across the water. And he's like the patron saint of travelers, right? Because Jesus was a traveler. So something that having to do with their life. They're the patron of that. And you ask for their certain intercession. Apparently, St. Anthony found something once. I'm not really sure why the story is the way that it is. But he's the person that you're supposed to ask for his intercession whenever you lose something. I'm not a great Catholic, and I'm not very smart, as we've already covered. So I didn't think to ask him to help me. I just somehow lost something at his church. And I could just see him face-palming up in heaven. Like, this guy, who gave him a radio show? Like, what is wrong with people that they trust this guy? All right, so the little minor suffering. Oh, I didn't finish that story.
What?
There's a sad ending to the story. I got that on Friday to bring it back to the Fullness of Truth conference. And I brought it to the Fullness of Truth conference. Used it that whole weekend. Sam, you were at that conference.
Yes, I was.
You were in the group message for that conference. I sent a message on that Monday. What did that message say?
Your message asked if we knew where your charger was or if anybody picked it up. I didn't see it. I felt real bad.
Yeah, so people were helping me clean up, and somebody was like, "Hey, should I get your charger?" I was like, "No, I'll get it." And then I forgot. So Tony, look around. Something's lost and must be found, because that charger is now out of my life.
Oh.
I have never once lost a charger. Not once. And I did it twice in a week with the same charger. I'm very, very bright. Okay. Second story about some suffering that we've got going on here today. Today was a very interesting day. I started the day off by waking up very early, which regular listeners of the show know that makes me very, very much not a good Catholic, right? So I woke up grumpy, get in my car, and go pick up these two people that I work with, because we're driving out to Brenham, where the parish that we work in. And as we're driving out there, we get about halfway there. It's about an hour drive, 45-minute drive. We get about halfway there. And my car just instantly goes from 3,000 RPMs, just trucking along like and then all of a sudden just and it goes all the way up to 8,000, 9,000, where it gets in the red on your rotations per minute, right? And I'm like, oh, that's weird. That's never happened before. So I pull over and I just turn the car off and I turn it back on, because that's how you fix everything. Oh, it's not working. Turn it off, turn it back on again, and then it works, right? Not the case this morning. Absolutely not the case. Turn it off, turn it back on. I am now 30 minutes from my house in a car that can go 75. Now about an hour from my house, because my car can't go from second to third gear. So I get up to about 40 miles an hour, and it's it shifts gears the first time, and then when it goes to shift gears the next time, it just goes, it just doesn't work again. And I'm just like, okay, this is real dumb. So then I put it in second gear, so it doesn't go crazy, and still it can only go 40 miles an hour. So for the rest of the drive this morning out to Brenham, I was in a car that was in second gear going 40 miles an hour. So my car just yelling at me "Rah!" It's just not going well. We get there, and then I we had to help them move back into the church and all these kinds of things. So we're there for 2.5 hours. And then I start driving back. I'm like, well, this is going to take a long time because I now have to go about 60 miles or so, give or take, at 40 miles an hour. So this trip that normally takes me about 45 minutes took me an hour and a half, like almost double the time, right? Those of you that can do math just realized I go about 80 most of the time. So there you go. A little special treat for me to share in the confessional. But the transmission's done for. Like the transmission in my car is just dead. And here's the irony of this, right? That would suck for anyone where your transmission in your car goes out. Not only did my transmission in my car go out, on Friday, I sold my other car that works well. Regular listeners of the show will know that a great, fantastic story. I'm a missionary. People, so that what that means is that people donate to the ministry that I work in. That's where my salary comes from. And through the ministry, somebody donated their van to me because we're a growing family. And we, in the 2 cars that we owned, we couldn't fit a 3rd child seat. We're having a baby next month. So they were very, very nicely donated us this van. So for like a week or 2, we had 3 cars. We had the van, and then we had the 2 cars that we had, and I was deciding which one I was going to sell. And I knew when I was deciding which one to sell. I just knew it. Whichever one I picked to keep would be the one that would have something go wrong with it. And I was absolutely right. And so I'm driving back. I'm like, God, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Another wrinkle in this story is that the person in my car I'd been making fun of because she drives slow in this same trip back and forth to Brenham. And she's just like, nah, you're slower than me. I'm like, I kind of feel like my car broke because she prayed against me. She was just like, Lord, smite him. And what she didn't see coming was that he would smite me while she was in the car. So that's what happened, right? And if this would have happened 3 weeks ago, same situation, right? Where I sold the car 3 Fridays ago. This happens 3 Tuesdays ago, right? I wouldn't be in a good mood. I'd be very angry. I'd be frustrated. I'd be stressed out financially, all these kinds of things, right? But as I was driving back this morning, all I could think about in general was the 500,000 cars that just got lost in Hurricane Harvey. 500,000 people just in the Houston area. A lot of them, my family and friends. Where I've seen pictures of like my friend's house who I grew up in, and they have water halfway up their cabinets in their kitchen. Like it's just mind blowing, right? So my car needs transmission work. It needs to be replaced. It's going to be very expensive. It's actually going to take most of the money that I just sold my other car for, right? So I'd already had plans for that money, and then we finally have like a financial cushion for when crazy things come up. Then 3 days later, crazy things came up, right? So in all this, that's what I was thinking about generally, and all I could think about was one Facebook post, Instagram post, whatever, from when the hurricane hit. And I talked about it a little bit last week on the show. Was a youth minister friend of mine named Jared Manning. Back in Lake Jackson, my hometown. It's about 45 minutes south of Houston. He posted right after his house was on ABC, like the local ABC affiliate in Houston. His house was the backdrop for like the news person standing there in like waders, in a huge amount of water and these big old boots. His house is the house behind it. Like, there are houses flooding around here. You never think about it like on the news, like, oh yeah, like that's an individual's home, right? But he's like, that's my house. This is the situation at my house. And that guy, Jared Manning, great youth minister in the Lake Jackson area, all he posted on his first post about the flooding in his house was, even still, ... it is well with my soul. And we talked about a little bit last week about like what does the hurricane mean for us? What is suffering? How do these things fit with Christianity? And we talked about that in like a general way. And I personally experienced it this morning in a personal way. Where when people, Christians, respond in a truly Christian way to these sufferings. It can inspire other people to become closer to Christ and act more like Christ. Because of Jared's picture this morning, I can sit here and laugh about my transmission going out, right? When 5 days ago it just stressed me out like crazy. So Jared, you're probably not listening, but thank you. I'll send you a message and say thank you anyway. Tell you I talked about you on the radio. But what a beautiful image that was, and it really, really helped me out, right? So as we continue today's show, I'm going to save one story for our third segment about this mass I went to this weekend. Oh, do you want to talk about suffering? They call it the holy sacrifice of the mass. I felt like I was the one being sacrificed. So what we're going to do here in just a minute, though, is we're going to after we come back from break, we're going to be talking to these ladies who started this hilariously named podcast about dating. And as we all know, we're continuing this theme of suffering, because you think dating, you think 2 weeks of, oh, that's cute, and then you just think absolute suffering. Absolute suffering. But I'm gonna take this time. I always do like announcements and stuff at the end of the show, and I want to go ahead and do it now, especially after I just told that car transmission story. That's going to hit my finances pretty hard in the next couple of weeks. And I have a Patreon page. So I kind of jokingly say, because my transition went out. But what Patreon is, it's a way for the listeners of shows or artists or whatever to go promote and to give to the work that people are doing, right? That was and if that was the worst pitch I've ever done in my entire life. So I'm going to start over. Patreon is a way to support the things that you like. How's that? So if you like the show, if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Forte Catholic. And what this is a community where you can give a couple of bucks monthly. You can get behind the scenes stuff. We record some absolutely hilarious stuff before and after the show, or even in between segments. And also, I interviewed Justin Fatica last week. That interview is going to be up on Patreon. It will air in about a month, but if you want a sneak peek, just random things like that, just a couple dollars a month, go support us, and we'll be right back. All right, friends, we are back with segment 2 of Forte Catholic for this evening. I cannot tell you, I've been looking forward to this interview for quite some time now. I was listening to a podcast of my friend, Mr. Kyle Hyman, and there are these two ladies that came on talking about their podcast, and I think it's the most funny podcast name I've ever heard in my entire life. Their names are Mary Ashley Burton and Laura Samara Sams, and they are here to talk to us tonight about their podcast called Fishes of Men, and I'm about to let you guys introduce yourself. Ladies, how are y'all doing this evening?
Hey,
we're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Trying to keep cool in this LA
heat, yeah.
Oh, don't even. We're in the middle of Texas. So here we go. We were talking about suffering today, and me suffering like losing an iPhone cord in comparison to what like friends and family are suffering with the hurricane in about an hour and a half.
Oh yeah.
It's like you guys in LA complaining about heat as I sit over here in Texas. Come on now.
Right.
It's true. But to be fair, I did just get renter's insurance because there was a wildfire like just a few miles away.
Yeah,
they
evacuated some of our towns.
That's true. I heard about that.
Mean, definitely not on the par of the hurricane.
Definitely
sure.
not.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah,
not.
we could have. I mean, if only we could have moved some of the water from here and gave it to you guys, everybody would have been happy. We would have really enjoyed that.
I know.
Yeah.
So you've
I'm
got
working on that transport device.
Yeah. Well, if only there was some device that we could move things. All right. So here's what I want you ladies to do. I want you to introduce yourselves as individuals first, and then tell us about this podcast that you guys started way back when.
Yeah, way back.
Oh, hello? Well, seem to have lost them because I can't hear them. They might even be saying something really interesting right now, but I can't hear them. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call them back. Let's see what they say. I really hope this works because these ladies are absolutely hilarious. We're going to be talking about dating. We're going to be talking about why they started this podcast. We're going to be talking about dating in the modern world because it's crazy out there. I joke that I got married pretty early. I got married in the middle of college, or I started dating the woman that I would marry at the beginning of college. Maybe the fire took their computer.
I really hope not.
I really hope not either. So I started dating my now wife in college. So I never did the speed dating.
Right.
There aren't many things that I think I'm really good at. Like what I think I'm really good at, I'm kind of prideful about it. But the other things I'm like, I know I'm large and white. Like I suck at dancing real bad, real bad. I think I would have been really good at speed dating.
Really?
I really do. We play this game at youth group about where we it's like speed get to know you, where it's essentially speed dating. They're just not on a date.
Right.
We ask stupid questions like, there's a circle in the middle and the circle on the outside. The circle in the middle stays there. Circle on the outside just goes round and round and round and round.
Right.
And we played it at youth group the other day, and we were just asked crazy questions like, would you rather, and Sam, I'll ask you, would you rather have snakes for fingers?
I don't think anything could be worse than that.
Or sausages as toes?
I'd probably do sausages as toes.
See,
I could close them up.
I have so many follow-up questions about that.
Well, are the snakes evil? Well, I mean, most snakes are evil because they bite. That's what I'd be afraid of.
Are most snakes evil? Really?
I mean, if the snakes are going to bite me.
They're just doing what God asked them to.
Well, not biting me would be
All
nice.
Right, I think we got him back on the line here. We can stop talking about sausages as toes now. Hey, can y'all ladies hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Okay, we can. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but why don't you guys introduce yourself and introduce the podcast?
Sorry about that.
You know what? But this always happens. We think that this is proof that the devil doesn't want us to do what we're doing.
Yes.
So
Technologies.
yeah. Anyway, so I'm Mary Ashley. I'm Mary Ashley Burton. I'm Catholic. So I have a master's degree in Spanish, and I work my day job as a Spanish interpreter. But on the side, I'm trying to pursue a career in screenwriting and comedy. And that's it. Okay.
And I'm Laura Samara Sams. I hail from the Bay Area, the Warriors and Giants. And I came to LA 7 years ago to pursue filmmaking as well. And I met Mary Ashley doing a program called Act One that kind of trains Christian filmmakers. She took the writing track, and I took the producing track, but Mary Ashley is also a producer in her own right. And we linked up about 4 years ago now, wow, to do this podcast. Really, it started out as an idea she had to do a web series called Fishers of Men that dealt with Christian dating, and it was perfect timing because at the time I was going through this ridiculous heartbreak. But it then turned into, hey, we don't have any money. Why don't we do a podcast instead? So we started the podcast, and it's been going about a year and some months now strong. So a year and 4 months. So really happy. We have almost 60 episodes under our belt, and we're really excited to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the name is absolutely hilarious. I think Fishers of Men, two women talking about dating, I think it's the funniest podcast name ever. But when I told y'all that, you're like, oh, that's great to hear because some people don't understand the name. They have questions about it. So explain to us why it's called Fishers of Men, and then what is y'all's main focus? What are y'all trying to accomplish? What do y'all focus on the podcast?
Yeah, so it's a play on words. I just always felt like when Jesus says, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men," he was actually kind of being really hilarious in a certain way. When you find yourself single, often, Christian women find themselves single long past the time that they thought they would be married. And so you do feel like you're fishing, hunting, you know, and then there's the whole, like, there are plenty of fish in the sea.
Yeah.
Metaphor.
Is like, it's like a cliche that we just kind of capitalize on. I mean, even as a kid, like our friends and I, my friends and I used to always say that, like, fishers of men, like when we were looking for our potential mates in life. So when Mary Ashley brought it to me, I was just like, this is perfect. And this is the sign that we need to work together.
Yeah. And so our main focus is basically, we have always wanted to have people know that they are not alone in whatever they're struggling with, whatever questions they're having. You know, we're all just kind of in it together. We're an ecumenical podcast. Laura is Protestant. And so we interview authors, hosts, and even normal people that have, or regular people, I would say, I should say, or non-famous people that have just really interesting stories about relationships, because there hasn't really been a whole lot of, or there haven't been a whole lot of resources in the church about dating, because dating is kind of a new phenomenon anyway. And so a lot of the stuff that you see in the church, a lot of books and resources are for, like, engagement on, but
dating with intent of getting married at some point.
Right.
You know, it's not necessarily always the goal.
Yeah, or, you know, it's like sometimes, you know, your spouse is just not really on the horizon, so what do you do with your life, you know? And so a lot of single people have felt left out, but we don't talk just about singlehood. We talk about lots of issues that come up in relationships that people might wonder about, but there hasn't been a forum to really publicly talk about it.
And my take on it has always been just the church's take specifically on sex, because it's something that, I mean, we live in 2017, you know, like there's a lot that the church kind of sweeps under the rug and doesn't want to talk about from the pulpit because it's either too taboo or whatnot. But these are the issues that we're dealing with
in our daily lives,
in the culture in which we live. And I think we both are on board with wanting to have a platform where people can tell their stories in a way that they won't feel judged, a platform where they know, like Mary Ashley said, that they're not alone in their struggle, in their shame, in their look for redemption, if that's where they are, or even just, hey, I want to go closer to God, but I'm single. Or, hey, I'm single and I'm still, hello, human, and I have a sex drive. What do I do with that? So we just wanted to brave and not only be vulnerable with our backgrounds and our stories to people we talk to, but also make it so that people can tell their stories.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I like it so much, because I'm a big proponent of always trying to talk about the things that I feel like people were afraid of talking about whenever I was in high school or in college. And like you said, like people have sex drives. They have this desire to date, this desire to figure out what they're doing in life. And if the church isn't going to talk about it, what happens in young people especially is that faith life is over one way and dating is over the next. And then we wonder why people aren't living the church's values when it comes to their dating life. And it's like, well, it's because you separated them, church. It's like we have to unite these things and bring them back together, because just like us as human beings, like we're whole. We can't just separate these things out. So one of the things that I like about y'all's podcast, and like I said, I heard an interview with you guys on Kyle Hyman's show, is that I love the idea of modern dating. I think it's hilarious. I know that y'all are fans, as I am as well, of Aziz Ansari. And he just is a hilarious comedian, has stand-up about dating, and he has this Netflix show based on his life called Master of None. And I think that you guys have read the book or you've watched the show. I wanted to get like you guys' perspective as Christians, as Christians who talk about dating. What is y'all's perspective on Aziz's take on modern dating?
Well, one thing that I really got from the book that I just love the book for, apart from that, the fact that it was just hilarious, was that he talks so well about the paralysis that comes from having too many choices, and how he interviewed a lot of people that would be like our grandparents' age and asked them about what their dating lives were like. And it was like totally different. Like they usually married someone like that lived in their apartment building or lived on their same block, or it was kind of arranged, and they didn't necessarily love their partner, but then their marriages lasted for a really long time, and they grew to love them. But now we're kind of starting out looking for, we've been raised on Disney, first of all, and then we're starting out with unlimited options online, and so that gives us the impression that we can get the absolute most perfect person, because we can literally look all over the world. Yeah. And, you get on and there's just like option. And it has caused people to reject others based on things that you never would have rejected someone over. Well, first of all, based on things that you would have only found out on like maybe the fourth or fifth date before. And now it's like, what? He's a Dodgers fan? Never,
Exactly. Dodgers fan, no Dodgers fan.
Yeah, so get him out of here.
Well, my perspective on it is, like, of course, Fishes and Men, we try to be playful, but both serious and non-serious, because, that's what dating is. However, we are obviously a faith-based podcast, but we do like to talk about mainstream stuff and secular stuff because, again, the combining the factor that we're all humans makes the search for love very universal. I mean, as Christians, we can say that God put that on our hearts to want. And so what we say on our podcast that is very faith driven, obviously we're not talking to people that are not of faith. However, what I can say about Aziz's show as well as his book is I so appreciated that even if it didn't come from a faith background, it still was so true in that search for wanting companionship. And of course, as Christians, we can go back to God put that in us, and he has a way of what that means in our lives and how we should go about that. But if anything, it affirmed that God's word is true because of all the heartbreak and all the sorrow that comes from not doing it God's right way. But I still definitely recommend it, to anybody that wants to read up about what it looks like to date in today, because it was very factual, very statistically driven, and, still true to what our state of dating looks like, our state of humanness in any case.
And then on the show, I mean, there was a lot that I saw that I could relate to, especially like in the second season when he's like, I'm going to go out on a lot of dates, and he just meets a lot of different women. And you see a lot of scenarios played out that even if you've been trying to date only Christians, you still see the same patterns because, like, for example, he goes out on a date and there's a girl swiping during the date.
I know.
She's like,
that was so funny. She's planning her next date on their date.
And that exact thing hasn't happened to me, but similar things have happened to me of like guys that are just like checked out, they're on their phones and during a date, and there's a lot just about human interaction that Christians are kind of suffering from the illnesses of the culture around us. And so the thing that I really took from it is like, wow, we all just need to be better people about treating others with respect, trying to get to know them first as people, not wasting people's time, being honest about where we are, because that was basically the whole arc, not to give away spoilers, but the whole arc of the second season was actually just really depressing because
he was trying to do the right thing this whole time, and they still bit him in the ass. Excuse me. Excuse me. But also,
it's okay. I'll just get hate mail later. It's fine.
No, I mean, now we're getting spoilers. But like he tried so hard, and then eventually, like the desperation of like, but I don't want to give anything away.
Well, I don't know. It kind of just really showed how difficult it is to really walk the line when you are maybe interested in someone that's unavailable, and how much are you allowed to do with that person, or how little, or like what's proper and everything. And like we can get up on our high horses about chastity or whatever, but like it really illuminated for me the problem of emotional chastity, which we don't seem to take as seriously, I think, as Christians, as physical chastity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
Well, hey, ladies, thanks for coming on. We're running out of time. Sorry we had some technical difficulties, but before we get out of here, I want you to connect people to your podcast so they can get more of you ladies and the message that you guys have. How can they get connected with you and your podcast?
Yeah, we have a website. It's www.fishersofmenpodcast.com. We're also on SoundCloud, and we're on all the podcast apps, so including iTunes, so you can find us there.
Yeah, Fishers of Men.
Mm-hmm.
Well, great. Ladies, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. We'll have you on again some other time. All right, guys, we were going to come back here for our final segment here in just a few minutes. We're going to be sharing some more stories of some of the craziness that's going on in my life and a little special surprise for you from our producer, Sam. We will be right back. All right, friends, we are back for the final segment of Forte Catholic for the day. If you're just joining us, our first segment, we talked about the little sufferings in life. Last week, we talked about the big sufferings with those struggling through Hurricane Harvey. I shared at the beginning just a couple of little things going on in my life, and I want to share one other story that just absolutely drove me crazy. And it happened this weekend. So I've actually been heard multiple times on the show and in talks or whatever. I say this all the time. No matter what, if the homily sucks at your Sunday Mass, if the music is absolutely terrible, keep going, keep pushing, because you still get Jesus. And I still 100% believe that. I will tell you, though, that thought was challenged this past Sunday. I went to a Mass on Sunday morning in San Antonio. That's as specific as I'm going to get. I posted about this. It kind of became a thing at the end on Sunday on Facebook. It was fun and ridiculous and hilarious and all these things. Somebody asked, "What's the parish name?" I'm like, I'm not going to throw these people under the bus. They're doing well enough for their own. Okay, so here's the deal. Went to Mass this weekend with my wife. We left the kids with Grandma and Grandpa who live in San Antonio. And we went to this Mass. I walk in, and for those of you that don't know, like most of you know that I'm, obviously I'm a radio show host because you're brighter than a rock. I'm also a Catholic speaker, musician, missionary, all these kinds of things, right? What you don't know, probably, is that I actually started in ministry by doing like sound technician stuff. Like I would run the soundboards for the band at my home parish when I was in high school. So I go to this church, and I'm already kind of not in the greatest mood, so take that into consideration. But I walk in, and this is the noise. It's something along the noise that the sound system was making all on its own. That noise for an hour and 10 minutes. It was excruciating. It was one of those things. It's like, well, okay, something is kind of annoying. If I just tap you on the shoulder, it's annoying. If I do it for an hour, you want to murder me. And like that's essentially what was going on in my head, right? The sound was just going over and over and over again. Just super, like it's already annoying me. Just thinking about it, I'm already getting riled up. Shut it off, Sam. Okay. So this is bringing up the real emotions that I had. So I'm sitting there, and my wife knows this about me. She knows that I'm sitting over here like dying inside, right? So we got there about 5 minutes earlier, so I hear that for 5 minutes before Mass even starts. And then Mass starts. And I'll preface this by saying that I've been to this Mass before. The music was decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. Oh, it was horrendous this weekend. The music was absolutely horrendous. So the first song starts, and the pianist is going in like 9 different tempos. Like he starts, like let's take a simple song. This wasn't the song, but a simple song that most people know from church. Let us build a city of God. May our tears be turned into dancing. Okay, that wasn't the song. That's how the song started, right? This opening hymn. By the end, like he was playing, May our tears be turned into dancing. And of course, not only was he slowing down and speeding up, like, you know, most of you probably took piano lessons at some point. It's just like a thing that parents don't like their kids, so they make them do piano lessons with their kid. Like, that's just a typical life experience in America, right? And you know that when you play piano, like when you're learning, you have to play really slow. You're trying to get the right notes or whatever. So I get it. But this guy wasn't very good. And, you know, you're trying to worship, you're trying to pay attention, and it just wasn't going well. So I get to the first song, and I'm sitting here, like, trying to learn my own lesson, right? Like, no matter if the music sucks, like, just keep trying to pray. So I'm trying to pray. So if you know, at Mass, there's the opening hymn, and then there's, like, the first reading, right? So the next song, where I've already tried to make this conscious decision, oh, it's going to be okay. Then, in the psalm, a guitarist starts playing with the pianist. And again, when you're learning guitar, what you do is you get your fingers right on your left, like I'm right-handed, so I get my fingers right to hold the chord, and then I strum the chord. And when you're first learning, it's like strum. You're like, just there's so much space. That's what this guitarist was doing. Often in different keys than the pianist. And I felt bad for the guitarist because you could tell he's just starting out and he's trying to play in the same rhythm as the pianist, which I already told you is changing every 9 seconds. So, like, they're playing different keys at different tempos. It's like we're just in a practice room with two different musicians that don't know they're playing with each other. It was real bad. I swear to you, I busted out laughing in the middle of Mass during the song.
Taylor.
I'll explain why. Save your judgment for the end of the story. I will allow you to still judge me at the end of the story.
Okay.
I will allow it. But here's the deal. None of you remember the psalm from this weekend because you're not smart. I don't know. Nobody really, if I even asked you to remember the gospel, you'd have to like really think about it, and only 1% of the listeners would still remember. The psalm this weekend, and I'm proving my own point. I don't remember what the rest of the psalm was about. Primarily because the best comedic gold I've ever seen at a Mass happened throughout all of this ugliness. That's the real lesson today. There's some true beauty in the midst of darkness, right? The psalm, so how the psalm works, right? They're playing songs. The cantor, the singer, will sing a chorus, and then the whole congregation will sing it. And then the cantor will sing a verse, right? And it's all from the Psalms in the scriptures. So how this worked is, you know, he sang, we sing. Then he sang a verse, and then we sing together. Then he sang another verse, and then we all sang together.
Right.
And typically, when at a Mass, after you've done the final verse, you end after the chorus, right? Are you tracking? Is this making sense?
That
Okay.
makes sense.
So the pianist thought the song ended after 2 verses. There were 4. Okay. So
Oh no.
during the 3rd verse, and like, okay, that's not funny, right? Like that part's not funny.
Right.
The comedic gold was in the 3rd verse, and you can go find this and quote me. I swear to you this happened. I was in the place of God. I wouldn't lie to you. The first sentence of the psalm. So the pianist stops playing and starts moving his music to get ready for the Alleluia, right? He stops playing. The cantor keeps going, and the first line is something to the effect of, God, I will never be abandoned. As he got abandoned by his pianist.
No.
I swear to you, I looked at my wife and like did like the church laugh where you can't laugh like, wah!
Right.
But I'm like, just like shaking because I'm laughing so hard inside. Because I'm like, God, why is this allowed to happen
Why
in
have
your
you
church,
abandoned
right?
me?
And so I posted this on Facebook during Mass, okay? Because at this point, I've talked before about how the offertory song is often like, you know, everybody's intermission. Some people's intermission, they go to the bathroom, they go get water or whatever. Mine's getting on my phone. And judge me, I'll go to confession. Leave me alone. Send your hate mail already. Okay. But I posted, I said, when you're visiting a church that has rough music and sound balancing, and you can fix it in 2 minutes, but you just have to sit in your pew. I was like, this is suffering for me, right? Again, not the kind of suffering that my friends and family and all the people in Houston are experiencing from Harvey, But I looked at my wife sometime during Mass or after Mass. I was like, this is what hell is like. Like, this is why I need to pray, because this is hell.
You won't make it.
I won't make it if I keep Facebook posting in Mass. I'll just be in that church for eternity. So here's the part. So I posted that like during the homily, right? I went outside so that I wouldn't keep hearing that from the sound. So I was literally getting a headache. I went outside during the homily to go get Advil because my head was throbbing. Aww. I felt fine before Mass. Okay. Do you think that's the end of the story? The part that, like, I've been around bad music. It happens. The part that just made me livid. I was never more angry in a church building. At the beginning of Mass, I saw this guy that looked familiar. I've been to this church before, and like I said, the music's never been an issue.
Right.
I saw this guy in the choir, and he looked familiar, and I didn't know why. I was like, maybe I know him before. Maybe he just looks like somebody I know before. Maybe I've seen him at Mass. I don't know. And then during communion, it's like right before communion, right? This guy walks from the choir, who's on the left side of the church,
okay,
on the left side of the altar. He moves over to the right side of the altar where the piano is.
Okay.
And starts playing piano. And he's a maestro. He's absolutely amazing. So I'm sitting here and I finally get what I want, and I'm like, ah! Why is this allowed to happen? This guy has been standing here all Mass, not playing piano, letting this other guy just like ruin Mass.
Taylor's face is like so red. He's like angry all over again.
So angry. I was so angry because I'm like, dude, like, you have this gift. Why aren't you playing? It's not like, I understand, like, a lot of times people go out, like, the musician goes out of town, and then you get like the not so good ones. It's like, that's excusable. Like, that, you can tell me that and be like, okay, it's fine, whatever. This guy was in there the whole Mass and singing, and he goes over there, and it's just purely amazing. And I'm like, I'm walking up to communion. I'm like, God, can I even take communion? I'm so angry right now. I was on Facebook 12 minutes ago. Like, but I absolutely need you. So I received communion. Go back. I'm finally praying for the first time all Mass. I received Jesus, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is it. I'm actually praying, because what the music is supposed to do is to help us to pray, right? And I'm finally actually praying. And I'm like, God, thanks. But why did you allow this to happen? And I kid you not. I always, because I'm a musician and play at Mass, like, I don't want to be the person who like leaves Mass early or during the final song, right? If you leave Mass early, it's actually a sin before the final blessing. But there's a lot of people who like leave after the final blessing before the song. You know those people. They go stand in the back and they're like, okay, so I'm not sitting anymore. Bye. I see everything from up on the altar, so watch out. I never want to be that guy. I was that guy this weekend. You know why?
Why?
The great pianist walked back over to the choir, and he let the other guy play the piano for the closing song. I looked at my wife. I just turned and looked at her, and I was about to say, we have to go. And I just looked at her, and as I moved my head, she grabbed her purse, and we started walking out because she just knew, like,
it's over. It's done.
He's done. Like,
he's going to lose it. Taylor is going to lose it.
So, okay, why tell this story on the radio? First of all, the first reason why I tell this on the radio is because this radio show is pretty much all I was thinking about during the whole first half of that Mass, because I was like, this is going to be a great story. Second of all, it was interesting because, like, I was talking in the last segment with the ladies from the Fishes of Men podcast about how a lot of people in the church don't talk about things that they struggle with or taboo topics, right? Mm-hmm. It's taboo to talk about being on your phone at Mass. It's taboo to complain about Mass, right? Oh, it's beautiful and it's this holy sacrifice. Like, yeah, you're right. But humans still have a part in it, right? So I posted this on Facebook knowing that I might get some hate mail. And you know how you can do like react on Facebook? Mm-hmm. So I got like 40 likes and like 45 like ha-ha-has.
Right.
And then I got like 15 sads. And I wasn't sure if they were sad at the story or sad at me.
Or sad for you?
Sad for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be that.
And there was one person that reacted angry. And I'm like, again, are you mad at me for posting this or mad that the music sucked? Like, I'm not
or
sure.
That sound was in existence.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So I get into this thing, and I got a lot of like typical Catholic answers. Like one of them, our buddy Tim, we just hired him. He's a good dude. But he comments, he says, offer it up. And I'm just like, oh, I was ready for this one, honey. Like I saw this coming. And I was like, dude, like I tried that. I tried offering it up for the first 15 minutes or so. After the pianist abandoned the guy during the psalm about not being abandoned, I lost it. I couldn't offer it up anymore. There was nothing. That boat had sailed. It was gone. A lot of people though reacted and they were like, I have totally felt this way before and never said it. Mm. So I never want to push the envelope for the purpose of pushing the envelope. But there are things in the church that you and I have all thought. You've been in a mass where the music was terrible. And you've been in a mass where the music was terrible. You thought, I should offer this up. And you were like, nope, this sucks. I can't do it. And nobody wants to talk about that. There are things in the church that people don't want to talk about. Like, there was one person that reacted, Miss Wedlick. She's the mother of some youth that in my last parish. She says, I know what you're talking about because she has 2 kids who are musicians. And she said, I looked at them during one mass and the music was terrible. They looked like they were physically in pain. And I was like, okay, so that was their reaction. Mine was just inner rage and my face turned red, right? But why even bring this up on a Catholic radio show? Somebody asked this. What advice do you have for parishioners who realize the music is bad and that it distracts from worship? What's the best way to approach this? And here's the whole point of this. We are the body of Christ. We all make up the body of Christ. We all have different gifts. We all have different talents. Some of us have musical talents. If you are in a church where the music isn't that good, donate your time, please. Give that gift. It's so rewarding to play music for God. It really is, I promise you. If your gift is not music, please, for the love of all things good, don't join the music ministry. But it's not just this rejection. Go find something that you're good at. You are good at something, and we together as a church can all combine and to make this community that we have, this church we have, this mass that we have, all these beautiful things, we can continue to make them as beautiful as we possibly can. Find a way to help serve your church and be bold and walk up and say, we have to fix this. Talk to your pastor, talk to your music director. It's been another episode of Forte Catholic. Say it! Hey, this is Taylor. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I really do appreciate all the support that you've shown. As you heard, we had some technical difficulties with the ladies from the Fishers of Med podcast. We called them after the show. We talked to them for another 20 minutes, and that is going to be on the Patreon page that I talked about earlier, patreon.com/Forte Catholic. Couple dollars a month lets you listen to that interview and tons of other great behind-the-scenes content, extra bonus content, and other interviews and stuff like that. So thanks so much for your love of the show. Please go to the iTunes store right now and give a rating to the show. It would help tremendously. Y'all rock, and I'll see you next week. See ya!